Good afternoon. Happy Monday and happy Motivation Monday. It's been since Friday. We did a launch on Friday for the cool new Rejuva Wrap infrared sauna blanket, which I literally just packed away. I was away all weekend. So I'm kind of energized now because I've been running around. The theme of today's session is 3 tips to boost your energy using whole body vibration, which of course I love talking about more than anything. And I did want to go over a few facts as I always do. I did post in the event today a link, not to a study. It does reference some studies, but it was a really good article I came across on Harvard Health Publishing. We all know that exercising and being active is certainly something we should all be doing for a variety of reasons. But I wanted to talk specifically today about the energy piece because it's kind of a twofold equation. And I'm going to give you 3 general tips or 3 general moves that you can do on your vibration plate throughout the course of your day or when you do have access to it to boost energy. So if it's no big surprise, the first tip would be frequent use. Using your vibration plate to boost your energy isn't a new concept because exercise and moving boosts your energy levels. Why does it do that, Debbie? Well, I took some notes and part of it is condensed from that article, but I think you'll find it interesting. When you move, when you exercise, depending on the level of intensity, how much you're exerting yourself, but anytime you move, there's something happening, there's something occurring at the cellular level. By moving your body and exercising it, it makes the cells inside of your muscles produce mitochondria. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of your cells. It's like your batteries and you're building it up. They make fuel. So they take the foods that we eat and they convert them into energy, and they take the oxygen that we breathe. Um, there's all kinds of different functions that the mitochondria perform, but by boosting or increasing activity and boosting your mitochondria, it kind of boosts your body's energy reserves, if that makes sense. Your energy supply kind of puts it in the bank. So does exercise really boost energy levels? That's the link that I gave you. But there is a balance. So I want to talk, many of you that might be dealing with chronic fatigue or have no energy at any given time, you can't get up and have the energy to go to the washroom, let alone how would you gain energy using a vibration machine. So if you are joining me today, my question to you would be is, of course, always, where are you from? And, have you found or do you use a vibration plate for energy? Some of you may or may not be aware, but all that a vibration plate is a modified way to do activity. It's less strenuous on the body, less impact, and it can reduce the amount of time that you spend exercising. So how is that a win when we're boosting energy? If you are dealing with fatigue, whatever symptoms that may be slowing you down, being able to boost those in a less effortless way is one of the big advantages that whole body vibration can offer to you. Another big reason that moving and you doing it via a vibration plate is it really expedites blood flow and lymphatic movements. So when we expedite blood flow, we distribute oxygen. Our blood becomes rich with oxygen, and that also gives us that energy boost. So there's a bazillion reasons that doing a moderate amount of activity is going to boost your energy. It's still very much, though, an individual thing. So if you personally are suffering with fatigue, it's not necessarily about going and doing a 10-15 minute workout. Perhaps you are sedentary and you're not dealing with a lot of activity, or you have arthritis or inflammation or swelling. Maybe there's reasons physically that movement or being active is hard for you. And again, where a vibration plate becomes so ideal is it's a good way to bridge the gap or to get started moving and feeling with the assistance of the machine and a little bit less effort on your part. So I'm going to give today 3 tips, 3 ways that you can use your machine depending on physically where you are starting to simply boost your energy levels. Is there a program which is best for fatigue? Stephanie, absolutely there is not. There is never a best program or a best speed or a best setting or a best movement because we're all different people. I prefer higher speed ranges. So depending on the type of movement that you are using, I'm always talking about oscillating. It's the primary movement of these machines. Many of you have rumblexes or other models that have different movements. And those are just, ways to mix things up and give you some variety. If those are the movements that you enjoy, go nuts. So whatever kind of program you're comfortable with, the key to boosting energy, hello, Brenda, is using it frequently in short durations, kind of when your body tells you you need that energy boost. So I'm going to give you 3 examples today. One for those that are very sedentary, dealing with lots of chronic issues, everything hurts all the time. Something more middle of the road, maybe to fit into your office day, maybe a quick little session before you chop up that salad for dinner, maybe to give you a little bit of energy before you head out the door. Hello, Facebook user from Kentucky. And then I'm also suggesting if you're an athlete or you're training, you exercise regularly, but you're just not in the mood today, and you need to just get focused and get into your game. We might do a little bit more to not only boost the energy levels, but it's going to serve as a warm up for your other activities as well. So I'm going to scooch to the machine, and then I'm going to come back for some questions. Hello, Irene from New Zealand. Nice that you've joined us here today. It is their winter there right now in New Zealand. Okay, so for today, no surprise, I'm working in oscillating mode, and the first position we're starting with is putting me in a chair. Today's big goal is simply to get a boost or a surge of energy whenever you need it throughout the course of the day. I would suggest if you need an absolute number as to how often, anywhere from 2 to 5 times a day is more than fine. What we're looking at here is 2 to 3 minutes, regardless of how much effort or intensity you're doing in your 2 to 3 minutes. That's where it varies for each of you and your goals. But the actual time doesn't need to be huge. And for those of you that are dealing with chronic fatigue or you fatigue easily, it's really important to keep your durations short. We want to give you energy, not take it away. And you'll find over time, that energy, the mitochondria in your cells, all of those things will start building, and that battery is going to house more energy. And these little spurts, you're going to need to do them less often. You don't need to do them longer, but you may require doing them less often as your energy levels not only increase, but you start retaining them. Okay, so I'm a little close to the wall today because my head was being cut off camera. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is seated. If you are dealing with chronic inflammation or pain of any kind, or you're just having a bad day, reduce the distance between your feet. The closer your feet are, the less you move. The wider your feet are, the more you move. That does not mean more benefit. It means more movement, and it means more impact. So how it feels is going to be different for everyone. You've got to play with your own tolerance. I would suggest keeping your feet about hip width apart or closer, depending on you. Now, from a speed perspective, I want you cranking it up. So when we move, oxygen's increasing, mitochondria production is increasing. So I would love to see you at a mid to higher speed, get more muscle movement in less time. I would love to get more muscles involved in the equation. So if you are able, instead of just sitting here, although this is certainly going to give you a lift or a boost, you'll feel that exhilaration probably within 45 seconds to a minute. I would love to get upper body to be part of the equation. So again, it's more like 1, 2, maybe 3 minutes. You're getting a good head to toe boost. But maybe you're sitting in a chair because you do suffer dealing with weight-bearing exercises, or you're recovering for something. So if you're unable to stand for more than a minute comfortably on the machine, I suggest doing this in a seated position. You can add your upper body by locking your arms and just placing your hands on your kneecaps. You'll feel it into the neck and the shoulders. The more you move, the more cells you're going to activate. So just do whatever feels good. If you want a little bit more intensity on the neck and the shoulders, I've shown you this before, lean over and get the elbows in contact. You can relax your head, turn it from side to side. You're really only going to need a minute or two. If you're not using your machine regularly, see, I'm already itchy. I've been out in the garden. But if you're not using your machine regularly, those mid to high speeds are going to present a little bit more movement, a higher volume of circulation and lymph volume. You might notice a little itchy pins and needles action if you haven't used your machine regularly or it's been some time since you have used it. So the next one I want to move to is for those of you that have no issue standing. Tell me where you're from. If you suffer from fatigue, perhaps you're using your vibration plate to address that now. The next position, one of the big reasons we suffer from fatigue and a lot of the chronic conditions that have creeped up in our lives is we sit too darn much. I think something like 80% of us spend the majority of our time in a seated position. There's lots of studies out there about, you're supposed to get up every hour and stand for a minute. Just get your blood and your circulation going. Get those muscles moving so that the mitochondria can boost the energy production. So if you are able to stand, the next variation, I want your machine still set in a mid to a high speed range. We're just going to do some real simple step ups. And I want you to start with your hands on your hips. I hope you feel stable enough to do this. We're going to go up, up, squat, up, back down. Okay? Because we're moving more than just standing on the machine, we're going to engage more muscle groups. If you are athletic, if you can't make it to the gym today and you want to turn this into something a little bit meaner, you could maybe hold that squat to fatigue. You could pick up the pace of your steps. Okay, really depends on what your overall goals are. But this is a really good one just to get the blood pumping. If you want to add a little bit of upper body arm swing, some weights, anything that you can do to add movement while you're doing this is going to increase that blood flow and that circulation. I like adding a squat into mine. I tend to sit way too much. And as I have said in a couple of my past sessions, I'm dealing with some nice sciatic issues. So I find if I squat a little bit, it engages those hamstrings a little bit more than if I'm just standing. So I like to squat down. Plus, I have terrible knees, and I've been playing in the garden too much, so I need to get a little movement back into my knees. Okay? Again, that one, 1 to 2 minutes. It's not about working up a big old sweat. It's just about getting some energy going. If you have been using your plate regularly and you're just looking for a lift throughout the day, any of these can be used as a spot treatment on their own for 2 to 3 minutes. Maybe you need a bit of a warm-up before you do other things, or you're heading to the golf course and you just want to get things loosened up. And you're going to get that energy boost regardless. Just keep your sessions at, like I said, short, 2 to 3 minutes max. A minute if you're dealing with chronic issues. So for those of you going to the gym, I talk about warm-ups all the time. And, it really depends on what you're going to work out. If you're targeting a specific body part, you may want to do exercises in relation to that. But again, very simple, something that you can do to get the blood flowing, circulation going, and warm up the muscles, perhaps get the heart rate up a little bit. Increasing your heart rate with that blood flow is also going to recruit more mitochondria production. So even though you feel a little winded, it is going to bring those energy levels up, those reserves. So what I'd like my athletic crowd to do is a little bit more of a squat variation. I want you adding some upper body. You feel free to add some weights. I'm just going to show you the positions today. But I want you to stand on the plate. This time we're going to do a little variation to our standard old squat. And I want you to angle your toes out a little bit. So your feet are lined up at the walking position. We're going to, the hip width apart, mid position. We're going to angle our toes at about a 45-degree angle. And you want to make sure that your knees are following. So what I want you to do is, at the same time we're squatting, we're going to extend our arms. So we're going to go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Depending on your range of motion and your flexibility, okay, notice how my knees are following the directions of my toes. You're going to feel this a little bit more in the inner and outer thighs because we've changed up the angle a little bit. For those of you looking to tone and shape, this is an easy little variation, okay? If you are dealing with arthritis or bad joints and movement is not your friend, feel free to just go deep and hold your pose static. You're probably going to fatigue a lot quicker. Again, the whole purpose of this isn't to do a whole workout, but I would like to get the legs a little bit more fired up than the previous positions. Okay, so slow dynamic if you're able. If you prefer, Just hold still. Whatever feels comfortable. 2 to 3 minutes. I can already feel a little bit of a burn. If you are doing more cardio-related activities later on, you want to make sure you're not pushing yourself, especially if you do struggle with fatigue during exercise. The whole goal of this is just to get things moving. And anytime you're moving, you're going to increase blood flow, lymph, oxygenation. It's to what intensity you're able to do. So I want you to make sure, especially if you're dealing with chronic conditions, don't overdo it. Don't push yourself. You could always do a little bit more later on. Okay? Did I bring my coffee? So I just want to come back and check in on some questions here. Who do we have here today? Hello, Dolores from Texas. I have JC Ann from Pennsylvania. I have Denise from Idaho. I have Nancy from Lexington. And Irene says it's miserable and wet. Pardon me. I've been out in the garden all morning, and it's probably the first bit of summer we've had here the last few days, but it's just been raining and thunderstorming and everything for quite some time here too. Hello, Denise from South Florida. I have Brandice. This will be great first thing in the morning before work. Yeah, sometimes we don't think about, because we think it's a big 10, 15-minute commitment or longer, we tend to think of these machines as a workout, not as much of a self-care tool. So, whether it's energy, whether it's aches and pains, I could go on and on for days about the different benefits, but a short, low intensity moment or two on the machine is simply going to boost energy, give you lymph, give you circulation, mental clarity, all the good things that come with that. If you're wanting more fitness gains, more exercise results, I'm not going to lie, you have to do exercises and push yourself. You can stand on the machine and just do some pelvic tilts, but going longer and longer and longer isn't going to engage the muscle group, the big muscle groups that burn those calories and tone the muscles as well. So nobody's telling me if they have any problems today. I see Lisa. I need to know where I can go to get a workout on the machine. Really depends on what kind of a workout you're looking for, or and what your goals are. If you haven't already checked out, Life Pro has a members page where there's all kinds of videos from the past. There's a lot of good resources depending on the type of machine that you're working with. So I'd recommend going there first. Lauren, I'm not sure if you have access to that training site. Let me find it right now. But yes, really great place. Oh, hang on. No, I think I've got the link wrong. And if you're not a member, I'm not sure if you're coming to me on the main page or if you're on the VIP page, Lisa, but certainly if you're not a member, make sure that you hook up and join the VIP page. There's all kinds of awesome information exchange between users there. There's workouts, and if you're looking for something specific in the form of a video versus what comes in your book, there's a few different options. So let us know what specifically you're trying to accomplish on the goals side. If you're dealing with anything, and then there's a few more choices there to get something most appropriate for you. What else? So is anyone here dealing with fatigue, or does anyone use their machine for fatigue? Brandis is saying I like to squat and place my hands on the platform. I like doing that as well. I did a session last Monday on retaining your independence and keeping your feet flat. Ideally, you always want those heels in contact, probably holding 70 to 80% of your body weight. But yes, the better your range of motion, the more that those daily tasks are just going to be possible. For the Pilates laying on the Rumblex, which setting do you recommend? I mentioned earlier, Nancy, there's never one perfect setting for every person. It really depends on what your positions are and what your overall program does. I didn't do a Pilates session. I would say Rosanna is probably the better person to look at exercise positions specifically. But in the oscillating mode, the slower, wobbly, more choppy speeds tend to be better for balance and stability if you're doing those types of positions. If you're dealing with poor balance, inflammation, pain of any kind, I don't recommend starting slow. Starting slow on a vibration machine usually in our mind translates to a slow speed. And I would say start conservatively. A mid to higher speed with a closer foot placement is going to be far more tolerable, even exhilarating, and feel better than a slow speed with a wide foot position. There's a mentality, just the years these machines have been out and things we've seen at the trade shows. We think we need to stand wide to get all the benefit. And that's, unless you're doing something specific, I prefer to coach functionally. So feet should be hip width apart, no more, unless you're doing wide squats or balance type positions. But if your feet are closer to the center, you're reducing the amount of movement and impact, and you'll be able to tolerate those mid to higher speeds until you get a little bit more assimilated with the platform. But depending on the type of positions that you're doing, there's different speeds that I would recommend for that. I have a bad ankle, Stephanie says, after having plantar fasciitis in the same foot, which improved with toe separators. Amber told me to try that. Now a bad ankle. Any idea? I wonder if the bad ankle isn't just if it's the same foot, it's probably from compensating for the plantar fasciitis. What I would make sure you're doing, Stephanie, sometimes when we have an issue resolve, we stop doing the things that resolved it because we think we're okay now. So whatever you were doing, whether it was stretches or massages for the plantar fasciitis, you want to keep up with those things, certainly as a maintenance piece. If there is a weakness in the foot, it's not uncommon, of course, that other body parts are compensating, and they can certainly get taxed themselves just by overuse. So if it's the ankle, and your range of motion allow me to show you the laziest way that you can do it. This is my fancy dancy roller, which is just a swimming pool noodle. There's a couple different sizes depending on you and the body part that you're treating. I've got a couple different sizes, but I cut them the width of my platforms. And to hit the Achilles or the ankles or anything like that, it kind of really depends if bearing weight is a good thing to do or not. For your Achilles, you may want to do, or for the plantar fasciitis, you want to make sure you're doing your calf stretches and those type of things. But if you've been getting down on the ground, to target the ankle, my favorite way is to get this pool noodle underneath there and elevate it up off the platform. What the pool noodle allows you to do is target areas that don't come directly in contact with the machine. So maybe the arches of the feet, the top of the foot, the elbows. There's all kinds of ways that you're just using the pool noodle to get the vibration into those areas. So I would say, doing, if there's any stretches or anything you're supposed to be doing, but try that one ankle, just try and massage it. If you don't have a massage gun, this is a way that you can do it on the machine. But it's a good way to get a little weight into it without actually weight bearing. And other than that, until I know a little bit more about what's going on with the ankle, I'm going to assume it's just compensation. And if it's not the side that you had the plantar on, it's probably the other. If it's the other side, well, it's been probably bearing most of the weight. So tip number one, make sure that you're still doing the things that Amber suggested for the plantar fasciitis. And if you need to do something specific for the ankle itself, sometimes just giving it a little bit of attention, more often and backing away from that regular workout on the machine, just to get it back up to condition, or doing a bit of a warm up specifically like that before you do your other things, warm up the joint. You might find it works a little bit better. But let me know if that answered your question on that. Where amazing. That was Stephanie. So Denise, amazing. I've not been fatigued at all since using my Relaxavibe regularly. Such a wonderful machine. So meaning you're not fatigued because you're not working out. Maybe that's not the goal. But if you're finding fatigue was lacking before and it's improved that, it's probably one of the more common things that I get back, regardless of how passive or not passive your use might be, is people feel happy. They feel exhilarated after and again, short, functional, 2 to 3 minutes max. Functional fitness is the best. Thank you. I'm tripping on my tongue today. Kim Barber says, curious, what causes the itching? I'm glad you asked. It's probably the number one common thing that all New Year's experience with the rush of circulation and lymph. And everybody's a little bit different, as are their sensitivities and their tolerance. But there tends to be a little bit of a pins and needles or an itchiness for the first week or two until your body kind of assimilates to the machine. And it's just an increase in blood flow and circulation. Could be some toxicity if you're dealing with lots of toxins, or you've got lymphatic blockages or lymph issues. If any of those systems are compromised, you might notice it's heightened in certain areas. You might notice redness or skin puffiness. But itchiness is a very common thing, especially in the meatier areas where we have less blood vessels, like and more fat in the thighs and the butt. But you may notice, for some people don't feel it at all. Some people, it's so crazy they can't even stand it. So if it's really severe, just shorten your durations. It will dissipate after a couple of weeks of regular use. On the extreme end of the scale, and it's very rare, but some folks I've dealt with that have some chronic conditions have had a histamine response where you're shaking things up. I mean, I don't know if it's a toxicity thing, but if you are prone to having a histamine response when you exercise, you'll know who I'm talking to out there. That's another very rare circumstance, but that's likely something that you've had in the past and have dealt with when you've exerted yourself. But because more is happening in less time on the machine, it just presents itself a little sooner. So don't be spooked by that. And it tends to be worse with my guys. They have different sensitivities. They usually have a lower body fat percentage. So it varies for everyone. Replying to Kim, blood circulation. Okay. JCN, I started using it for lymph movement, but need it for fatigue. Never realized it's for shorter times would help. Yeah, if you're dealing with lymph, I deal with a lot of lymphedema, lipedema, a lot of disorders related to bad lymph systems. And, many of them suffer with other comorbidities, whether it's diabetes or cancer or other things. So the energy is depleted, kind of double whammy. So many of them physically can only do 2 to 3 minutes. And that's absolutely, that's awesome. If you can do a minute or two when symptoms present themselves. So if you are dealing with lymphatic issues, it's when you've got swelling, maybe you've got neuropathy starting to develop, your body will give you the signs when it needs a fix. And I've got some people dealing with chronic conditions that are on it, 10, 12 times a day when they start out, because it's what they can tolerate. So instead of thinking, oh, I only made it 8 minutes, or oh, I only made it 10 minutes. If you were just starting walking for the first time, would you go 10K right off the bat? Or would you maybe go around the block and see how you do and progress from there? We get a little excited because when we are on the machine, it makes us feel good, lifts our mood, it gives us the energy. So it's easy to overdo it. So, try a couple, 3 minutes. Not saying you can't go longer, but specifically for the purposes of boosting our energy today, the 3 ways I offered you was if you're very sedentary, if you're kind of somewhere in the middle and you just want to get moving, and if you're an athlete, use this as your warm up, use it also as your recovery. But there's lots of ways to boost your energy as your body needs it. Or, maybe that's just the way life is, and it's Monday and you had too much of a weekend and you just need to feel better. So there's lots of reasons to boost your energy. Who else do I have here? You're welcome, Stephanie. Brandy's, and make sure you drink plenty of water to help flush the body systems. Absolutely relevant tip. We don't always think of this being like a massage because, there's not this lazy ambient room where, we've got lotions and potions, but it is massaging. And anytime we're moving and these machines, they do many, many micro movements on your muscles. So there's lots going on between the lymph, the circulation. And if you are dealing with chronic issues, you may want to, give your body, make sure that you're nourished and hydrated. If that's not something you're doing now, the last thing you want to do is deplete yourself further. And, staying hydrated is kind of a common sense thing, but sometimes when we're not doing, a big workout and we're sweating, we don't think about it. So thank you for validating that. Yes, it is important regardless of how much intensity you're doing on your machine, because we're moving a lot of things. Does it benefit diabetic neuropathy? Absolutely, it does. Depending on where it's affecting you and how severe it is, like anything, I'm never black and white, I'm sorry, but it really does depend on you, how severe it is. Do you need to put a mat? Do you have ulcers all over your feet? There's so many variables. Neuropathy can present itself in a lot of ways, but what I would suggest, if it's primarily the feet and it's progressed to the point where its stability and mobility are being affected, please sit in the stool. So start with your feet in the stool and kind of think about, like, it's like renovating the house. So we're going to work on the foundation first, which is the feet. And what I find with a lot of my diabetics, and neuropathy isn't just a diabetic thing. There's lots of reasons neuropathy can develop in the lower extremities, and it is very common, more so in the feet and the ankles, and it starts traveling. So if that's you, You need to get doing something and movement and bearing weight in any way. Even if you don't have a vibration machine, you need to stand more. Get your feet working. But sometimes we've digressed and it's fearful. We don't want to take a fall. So a vibration plate seated on the stool is that you might start noticing some sensation improve while you're using it. And if you, what you'll notice, if you can improve on the sensation with the neuropathy, the balance, the stability, everything else improves dramatically. So a lot of my therapists will use a machine prior to treatment or other things that you're doing for that reason. So if you've got really bad neuropathy, or a lot of my folks dealing with just special needs, the increase in sensation, the circulation, all those things, and the improvement in balance make this like a no-brainer before you do other things, or just as you need it throughout the day when the numbness starts getting worse, or if you know you got to go do something later and you want to be stable, a couple minutes on your machine before you head out the door would be an absolute game changer. I guarantee it. Get a plate to restore your energy levels. Yes, if you don't have one, why not? You're still listening to me after 31 minutes. I must be saying something that resonates with you. How many times a day can I use the machine? I hate that question because it's like asking how many times can you go for a walk? It really depends. Sorry to say that I hate that question, but it really depends on you. You know, sometimes the reason I get a little concerned is that like I don't want you on it all the time. You know, you can't just go longer and longer and longer and longer. Where do you progress from there? But depending on your goals, if you're just looking for feel good, the energy boost, self-care, pain management, a couple 3 minutes, you know, every hour if you really needed to. But the goal is hopefully you don't need to use, you know, if you're doing this regularly, you're not going to need to use it as often or as for long on the feel good stuff. If you're looking at exercise, pushing yourself to fatigue, working body parts to fatigue, you really only should be doing that kind of like the gym, like once a day. Can you do it with other activities combined? Everybody's level of conditioning is different, and that's really what's going to drive this. But for the feel good stuff, I have clients that are using it multiple times a day, and it's not an Advil and it's not a needle. So, you know, the worst you're going to do is overdo it. But just like you would exercise. So however that presents itself. But if you are dealing with chronic fatigue, you're looking to boost your energy, the key thing is short, consistent, regular use. Nancy's using it for osteoporosis, which is another big reason to use it consistently and regularly. Bearing your weight is what builds strong bones. Bearing your weight in the environment of a vibration machine is just kinder, it's funner. Is that even a good word? But you know, many of the folks that are using vibration plates that I work with started for bone density or health issues, but you know, they're getting other benefits. They're getting stronger, they're standing taller, they're breathing better, they're sleeping better, they're pooping better. So whatever reason got you started, know there's this whole world of benefits that are coming through activity, but the machine does enhance and give you more benefit than doing those exercises had you done them on the floor. Stephanie, I love, love, love my Rumblux 4D. Changed my life. Not kidding. I tell everyone about it, but most people believe it's stupid. And like the old time vibration machines from the 50s and the fanny belt, they think it's silly. You know what? Ignorance is bliss. You know, I've had that conversation. You know, 10 years ago, I would like chase you across. I had to prove that I was right and this would change your life. But, you know, I now speak to the willing and those that are interested. And if they can't see that you're moving and feeling better, they're blind. You know, sometimes when I'm trying to explain the benefits of what this does to me, I talk enough as it is, but it would be a 2-day conversation. Is it benefiting me? Yeah, I'm moving better. I'm feeling better. I moved about 5 machines that weigh 50 pounds each here, 10 minutes before you guys showed up, packed up the sauna, packed up the bed, and I'm still talking. And I'll be 50 very soon. So, you know, what measurement of success or what works is going to vary for everybody. But unfortunately, Stephanie, there is this brutal stigma out there around the vibrations. You can imagine some of the emails I get about vibrators from the Chinese suppliers. So it's kind of, I wish they had called it something else other than whole body vibration, because there's other things that fall into the mix. You know, I would call it accelerated gravity training, or I would call it accelerated weight training, body weight training. You know, really what it is it's taking your body weight, the positions you're doing, and it's ramping up the results in an environment that just makes it a little bit easier and takes a little less time if you choose to ride the pony that way. So today was all about boosting energy. I have enough of it. I wish I could bottle it and sell it, but I've been doing this 15 years. I don't know what else to say. So if you're feeling sluggish, and you haven't been using your vibration machine for an energy boost, it's not always a big workout. The sooner you get that out of your head and just start moving and feeling better, the rest will come and fall into place. Um, Brandon says, I like to lay on my machine as well. It helps my back. Yes, you can massage anywhere below the waist if range of motion allows. Move it, shake it however you have to. That's what's going to get the energy going. Nancy says, yes, me too. I tried weird looks when I try to explain what a Remlex 4D is. If I had, the hardest thing about this is explaining it to other people. I've done it for 15 years and I still tie my tongue up, but I simply describe it as an environment. It's not a machine. It's not a machine at all. It's an environment that makes weight bearing and floor exercises less impact, and it gives you a little bit more benefit in less time, just through these little micro movements. Micro movement sounds, sexier than vibration, because it doesn't really tell you what's happening to your body. A lot of people, it's not explaining the machine, but it's understanding what's happening to your body when you're on it. And it really is a physical experience. So when most people balk it, they've never tried it. The minute somebody's tried it, whether good or bad, they have an experience of some kind. And usually curiosity, the itchiness. There's nothing worse than, bringing hubby, getting him on the machine for the first time, and then he's all itchy and you forgot to warn him. So there's things that I certainly find are appealing to certain members of the group. But the hardest thing for my guys to get over and new people is the itchiness. And sometimes what scares us away from these technologies is we've had a bad experience. You can have a bad experience at the gym. A lot of it is, we don't know what we're doing. We overdo it. We're so excited. We rip this thing out of the box and we tend to overdo it. You've done enough homework and research. You made the decision to buy this thing. If you're not using your machine regularly now, try just using it for energy. Start moving and feeling better, and then come back and join myself and Amber and Roseanne for workouts when you're ready. Those who know exactly, Brandis. People still think I'm crazy. Can you imagine my poor kids? What does your mom do for a living? Well, she sells vibrators and does videos on YouTube. Think about it, right? I don't sell as much as I used to, but I think she does how-to videos with vibrators is a little bit harder for the teachers to grasp. I was able to get my friend a bottle for her hubby. He was scheduled for an MRI and back pain. Used it once, canceled the MRI. That's you gotta be careful with back issues, but yeah, that's probably one of the number one bad issues that I deal with. Hi, Sheila from Hawaii. I just love to sit on it and put it on the 10-minute program number 2. I never, it's never enough. So I do this 3 or 4 times in a session. Does it matter? I really enjoy does it matter? Not really. You certainly can. Part of the reason I like to encourage you not overdoing it is, you want your machine to last too. If you're moving, 30, 40 minutes a day, there's mechanical parts in there. I would suggest, if you want to maintain where you are at, keep doing what you're doing. But if you want things to continue to change, if you want to progress, it's not about going longer. It's about mixing up the settings. Your body gets used to anything, even if you're just sitting on it. Your body gets used to what you're doing. And if you want, maybe you're doing it for constipation or back pain, but if you want to start progressing to other things, even just by mixing up the speeds a little bit or adding some different positions in there, your body will start progressing into other places. You can. I never say no, you can't, especially if you're dealing with chronic issues. But I would prefer, if you're 75, start working on those bones. Do some standing positions. Do some pelvic tilts. You've obviously got good range of motion if you can get down on the ground. So good for you on that, Sheila. If you've got other goals, there's other ways to incorporate those into the machine too. Nancy says she's replying to Brandis. Me too. I have set it up with a bolster for my head and do Pilates and leg work. Yeah, again, it's just an environment. So whatever your exercise modalities are, whatever it is you like to do, this is just an environment that can be kinder and make those exercises more effective. You usually can do them in less time. And sometimes it's just a compliment to get better at certain things that maybe you're not so good at class, or certain weaknesses you're trying to target. So I always say you are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion, and these sessions will hopefully fill in the blanks on some of the rest of it for you. So thank you very much for joining me today. I may have a session later this week. I'm not sure if I have a product launch on Thursday or Friday, but we will let you know if I do. Otherwise, I will see you here next Monday at our regular time of 4:30 with something new and exciting to help making your life move and feel better. I appreciate your time, guys. The program incorporates all the movements in various speeds. Yeah, and every machine's going to vary. So, the settings and the programs, it gives you variety. It's kind of, it feels different to everybody. It's whatever feels good for you, but make sure if you want results to keep going that you mix it up. Variety is the spice of life. Enjoy the rest of your week, guys, and stay warm, Irene. I hope that the rain stops over in New Zealand there. Take care, guys.